Well, I've got a few slides I'll go over, and I, I made an assumption. I made an assumption that we would have um, only returning people. And so this is really interesting. So, but it will be really good because I've posed a few questions that I wanted to ask as well. So it'll be interesting to see what everyone else shares as well. So I'll just share my screen and then we'll go through them. So yeah, like I said, we want to look at, what have we done and where did it come from? So Michelle and I were working in the UK in January and February. We were working with Kate, who's on the call now, and a whole lot of other people. And we got back on the 1st of March, and we both had one more job each. We knew everyone was freaking out around the world about the lack of toilet paper. And we were like, what's going on? Like what do we do? And all our work was postponed, of course, as everyone's was. And we had a really quick discussion and said, we've talked about doing webinars for a long time. We've never got around to it. We need some anchor points right now. We need something to kind of hold us. So we thought something that would be easy for people to remember is days that start with T, which there's only 2 of them. And we decided, because of our friends and our networks all around the world, we wanted to make sure there was a time that people could drop in, that they wouldn't say, it's 3 a.m. for me then or whatever. So we thought we'll do 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. So already we've got 4 sessions, and we really didn't know what we were going to do yet, apart from, share and talk and learn from others. So we wanted to create a kind of sense of normalcy for ourselves as well, something that we kind of had a beginning and end of the week that way. Even though it was Tuesday and Thursday, that's a nice short work week anyway. So we wanted to create that and to also stay connected, and not only with each other, but with everyone else, with our friends and our networks, and meet new people as well. And Fiona came not long after and joined us, and which was wonderful. So we wanted to kind of stay on the radar. This is what we're doing and what we're working through, and also experiment and inquire into the things that we're learning. So, like I said, we just had 5 big weeks in the UK, and we're always learning and growing our practice. And Michelle, Fiona, and I, we are all grassroots practitioners foremost. Like, we are teachers. I worked at a university for 10 years, but it's not what guides me. It's not what leads me. It's that grassroots work and getting, the dirt under my fingernails that I love. So everything that we teach, it comes from our practice. So we thought, what a great way to have these calls where we can show people what we're experimenting with and what we'd like to kind of teach and learn and grow. So we wanted to walk our talk and share our gifts and skills as well. And I've put the web link in there, but I can put it in the chat later, that we have developed over the last few years, the Participatory Community Building Guidebook that you can download for free on our website. And it's over 100 pages now, and it's dozens of methodologies and stories and tools and strategies, and there's a whole lot of stuff in there. And we thought, well, we've got all of these. We've got thousands of, if we break it down, we've got thousands of smaller teachers we can offer to people. Let's just start somewhere. And one of our mates in Denver, Mike Green, who is ABCD for inclusion, so just people with disabilities and their families and carers, he says starting anywhere leads everywhere. And so we thought, well, let's do it. So we'll start anywhere. So I counted these up just this afternoon, and I kind of couldn't believe it. So we started on the 26th of March, which was the Thursday. So it was only a half week, that one. So we've been going for 9 weeks. It'll be almost 10 with the half a week when we get Peter and Vicky this Thursday in. So we've had 36 sessions, 16 guest speakers. They're all on YouTube that you can watch those guest speakers, 20 minutes of teach. We've gone over 10 different methodologies and teachers. We've had 7 reflective style talks, almost 700 participants so far. Some of them have been repeats, like I think Stacey's probably been at every single one. I don't know, I haven't counted that well. But some people are repeats, but there's been that many people. And we're still looking at a little more time to go yet. So I thought I'd use for anyone who knows, results-based accountability or results-based outcomes, which is a monitoring and evaluation tool that we blend into some of our work. And when you condense, it's called RBA, results-based accountability. When you condense RBA down to 3 core questions, it's how well did we do it, how much did we do, and is anyone better off? And they're kind of the 3 key questions. And we firmly believe that in anything we do, if we follow those 3, we've got our quantitative, our qualitative, and who's benefiting. It's in those 3 questions, and you can expand and contract them as much as you want. And RBA is a whole lot more than that, but that's just kind of condensing it down. So when we looked at how well did we do it, so we used participatory practices for all the calls that we did. They were like this. They're more conversational. I will not speak for more than 20 minutes, and then it's over to you, and we'll have discussions. We do that check-in and check-out, so we don't use that webinar style. We make sure it's interactive. We have that Q&A and reflection space. We have had some interactive activities along the way. One of them is in the middle there, which is an ABCD framework, or asset-based community development. We have the recordings that we share on YouTube, and then we have, as Michelle said, is happening tonight, the written and graphic harvest. So Michelle's doing the written one tonight and Fiona's doing the graphic one. And we share on social media. So you can see the graphic harvest down the bottom, and the top one was a participant one, wasn't it, Stacey? A participant had a go and went, I want to have a go at that drawing thing too. So we've invited people in. So is anyone better off? So this is just some of the things that we've talked about. And honestly, I looked at it, and Fiona and I are going to pull all the questions and provocations out and really do some good sense making and invite others into that. But when I looked at them, there was probably, I don't know, something like 30 different folders, just rich with questions and data. So this was just a few that I went through. And thinking of, have these, like last 9 weeks, have they benefited people? Is it worth doing, like for others, for yourselves in your own area, your own communities? What is it that we can learn from each other? It came up very strongly early on because people were still very fearful and affected by COVID-19 coming into our communities. So people were starting to look at what we can learn from each other. And face-to-face stories is part of the rebuild. And I can remember this line here, the second one, the how do we hug people when they're crying online? Like, how do we still offer that physical but not physical support to each other? And we did do a lot of talking about what does community development have to teach the world now? We are the ones we've been waiting for. It is our time. We had a lot of big discussions like that. And then there was quite often that it was mainly women on the calls, which is quite often in our sector. How do we as women, what do we as women have to offer this space and time? And all of these questions weren't just standalone questions. There's a lot more stuff under there. I'm just kind of going over a few. But the one that I really loved was the last one that we heard from the people out of those almost 700 people who were coming to join us. People were saying they've formed new networks, they've built new relationships that will be here and help us post-COVID. And that's a big tick in my books. So this is one of the frameworks that we went over 1 week, and it's from the Berkana Institute, where the art of hosting was born from. And it's their theory of change, but it's also a practice, very much so. And it's called the 2 loops. And so the top loop represents when there is an old system that's dying, and the bottom loop is the new system that's being reborn. And there's a whole lot of different points in this. As you can see, this is one of Fiona's graphic recordings of that conversation, of that hour where we presented this. And you can see right down the bottom, if you're looking for the spelling of the name of Berkana Institute, if you want to Google it. So we talked about this old system, or this old world that was dying, and it was in this there was stewards, there was hospices, there was people in that compost space. There was this new being born that people were calling the new normal. And we needed to name that and connect and nourish it, and then get to a point of illumination. So we had discussions around the situation we were all in globally as we taught these methods and patterns and practices. And you can see the recording on that on YouTube. And then we talked about, this was called the Angry Hamburger by one of our participants in a face-to-face workshop like a couple of years ago. It's just because someone saw the picture of it, the shape, the form of it, and said it looked like an angry hamburger. But what it's basically about is that different systems of leadership, that we've got the vertical and the horizontal. And the vertical is those agencies, coming down into community, is that vertical leadership. And the horizontal is communities are going about their day-to-day business and doing their thing anyway. And in our, the opportunity that we have is that space in the center, because quite often as community are traveling along, they'll often reach up. That's those smaller black lines. They'll reach up when needed, but not always. But if we're in that space of opportunity, there's those couple of principles there about go to the people, be open and honest, offer a variety of opportunities, which means, don't offer mums to come to a group at 9 a.m. when the school runs on. Be really open to people having different requirements, and that language matters. So we talked about these in the sense of our future in the post-COVID world as well. And we also talked about post-COVID might not be June, and it might not be September, and it might not even be 2021. Like, we don't know when post-COVID is now, but we can start looking towards it. And in that space of opportunity, community development has got a lot to offer there. I often laugh and I think of my mum. She rang me, and she lives up in Maryborough, Queensland, actually. And she rang me and she said, this community stuff you do, I think I get it now, because she was seeing these things happening in her neighbourhood. And for years, I just couldn't explain it well, or she didn't quite understand what I did for work. And she'd tell people I was a motivational speaker, and I'm like, okay, look, that will do. I'll take that. But she gets it now because she's seeing it in her neighbours, in her neighbourhood, and she's part of it. And she's a very active community champion herself, but it just didn't quite marry up, and now it does for her. So there were some really good quotes that came out of some of the conversations that we had. And they were from some of our mentors, the founders of some of the practices, but there was a couple that just stuck. And so John McKnight is one of the co-founders of the ABCD Institute in Chicago, where Michelle and I are faculty members. And John says, tell me a story of how communities are making their neighborhoods better. So tell me that story. It's like, share that time. And Jody Kretzmann, who's the other co-founder, and he says, we are the defenders of the small. And that was one that Wendy actually brought into the conversation. And John McKnight talks about institutions don't care, people care. So when the big institutions have had enough, or they've collapsed, or they've fallen, or whatever it is, It's not them that cares, it's people. It's the people within there. So it's about having that as a focus, that person-centered, community-led development. And Bliss Brown is from Imagine Chicago, appreciative, inquiry focused. And she says that stories stick like glue. You know, and through people's stories, we will hear their values. We will hear what's worrying them. We will hear what they have to offer. We hear it all through those stories. And we will remember a person's story way after we've forgotten the theory of whatever it was we were talking about. Got it, Michelle? That's good. So what's next for us? So this is what most of our work is based on, is this smaller picture. This is an asset mapping tool that we use in ABCD. And we would invite people to have a conversation with someone in pairs. You know, go and have a conversation with someone about the gifts that you can give your community, gifts of the head, hand, heart, heel, and human connection, and come back and we can talk about, you know, what have we all got to offer the space we're in together. So that kind of leads us. So that's why in the What Next, it's really important for Fiona, Michelle, and I to have people involved in this. So we've been in this together for 9 weeks, and for the people even joining tonight, you're in now too. And we still need that support and help. And we're still going to have more guest speakers at the end of this week and next week. We've still got a whole lot more to come, a full Indigenous week coming, there's stuff. But within that, we're going to start doing some sense making. So we invite you to help us. We're going to have some sense making weeks. I think it's in 2 weeks' time. And got it there. Lucky I wrote it earlier. So the next few weeks' calls are going to be next week. We're going to have Wendy and Stacey, who's on the call here now, and Terry Bergdahl, who's from Chicago. And then that next week will be the sense making week. Then we'll have Deadly ABCD, and Deadly, for those not from Australia, means awesome. It's Indigenous, amazing, awesome, fantastic. And that will be looking at that for that week. Then we will be looking at staggering our days like this, because we're also, the three of us are co-hosting an online ABCD conference, which is turning to be pretty massive at the moment. There's a whole lot of you on this call in that as well. And then we will look at our days starting with tea will be scaled back a little bit, because we're going to have to start earning some money too. We've been doing all of this for the love of it, and it has been wonderful, and it's been really useful and helpful to a lot of people, but it's time for us to shift our focus a little bit. So that's the three of us that I'll